Hello everyone and thanks for dropping by the video. Over the past 2 days I've had a lot of fun in Kanto Cup playing a bunch of strong meta Pokemon and recommended teams that I did not build, but it would not be fair if I played all those strong teams and didn't showcase a little bit of spice. So today I'm going to be playing a team consisting of Lapras, Alolan Muk, and Arcanine in the back. This team plays very similar to a double weakness composition where we have a very strong Lapras lead and an Alolan Muk safe swap or sacrificial swap to draw out their best Alolan Muk counter, and Arcanine is going to act as a second Alolan Muk in the back with Snarl, Crunch, and Wall Charge. So before I start, as a small disclaimer, this team didn't really dominate the meta. Oftentimes it was very difficult to draw out an Alolan Muk counter that also was an Arcanine counter. So oftentimes I had to deal with some tough Pokemon in the back. So I wound up going 13 and 7 overall on stream. And today I'm going to be showcasing a 4-1 set that I had in the middle of that run. A lot of great plays, and you can definitely tell that the Kanto Cup meta has been changing because we ran into a lot of spicy picks on the way. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, getting into our first battle here. I'm going to be leading Lapras into a Magneton. So I'm not sure who made a video about Magneton, but this is a very strong pick. It's very glassy, but it charges very quickly. And you can see here I go directly into Muk to bait out their best Muk counter. But this Magneton stays in, and I'm thinking I have to shield here because I know Magnet Bomb does a ton of damage, but what I didn't anticipate was how quickly Magneton can reach Magnet Bomb. And here I have to eat one here, and it does a ton of damage to Alolan Muk here. I get the 2 Dark Pulses, and unfortunately he brings in his own Alolan Muk to catch that, and I'm really behind at this point. So 1 Dark Pulse is only going to do about maybe 20% of an Alolan Muk's health, and I got to go straight for Sludge Bombs here. So the fortunate part is my opponent decides to try to farm up a lot more energy, and because I had an energy lead already, I can actually hit a Sludge Bomb and threaten a shield or threaten switch. So here my opponent does make the decision to shield here, and we actually CMP tie. So this is fantastic. He doesn't really have a ton of energy on this Muk. I think he just has a couple of Snarls, and I'm going to come in with Lapras here, and I'm going to commit to the farm down. I do have to eat this Dark Pulse or Sludge Wave, and I know that it's not going to KO me. So here he does a bunch of damage, and he's going to go down, and then Magneton is going to come back in. So I have to... he actually brings in a Mew here. So this is really interesting. I figured he would come back in with a Magneton, but I think his goal is to bring back in the Mew to absorb all that energy. And I have to commit a shield here because my intention is to throw the Surf to encourage the shield as well. So, and knowing how glassy Magneton is, this is a pretty comfortable play for me, and he does commit the shield. So I swap into Arcanine right now, and I know that I can survive 1 discharge. Magnet Bomb would be resistant in this case, so there's no reason to throw that. And as long as I can live this and build up a little bit more energy, I can have a Crunch ready for the Mew as well. So I make 1 more Snarl, and I know from the previous matchup against Alolan Muk, this Magneton builds energy very quickly. I don't want to over tap and have him get that energy. And Mew comes back in, gets a couple Shadow Calls in, but I get to the second Crunch, and that is going to be a good game. So very close game there, and a very unique team from my opponent. Okay, the second match in this set. Let's see what my opponent leads here. We have Lapras coming into a Dewgong. So okay, so in my previous video for Kanto Cup, you guys have seen how I play this matchup as the Dewgong. If my opponent doesn't forecast the Skull Bash, I generally just let it go. And I know that 2 Icy Winds is going to allow me to just Water Pulse my opponent down. Here, the Dewgong decides not to shield the Skull Bash, which I think is the wrong play. I think you shield here just to be safe, because then you can force a switch out to your opponent and then gain that shield back later on. And here my opponent is just going to go for straight Icy Wind spam, which I also think is not the correct way to approach this matchup. So this is actually going to allow me to get to the second Skull Bash pretty comfortably. And I was counting fast moves here, so there's no way that could be a Water Pulse. Water Pulse takes a little bit more energy. And I get to the Skull Bash here. So if my opponent decides not to shield here, I'm going to be basically playing with a triple debuffed attack, double defense buffed Lapras, and he tries to catch one of the Surfs there with the Hypno, but I've got a Alolan Muk here, and I've got 2 shields, so this is definitely a lost switching for my opponent. It just depends on how he wants to play it, and it looks like he wants to go straight Thunder Punch. Here I go for the Dark Pulse, trying to line up that fast move so I can deny as many confusions as possible, and my opponent decides to commit a shield, so really nervous about this one, and I actually throw a Dark Pulse while he's in the confusion animation. This is either going to encourage the second shield, or it's gonna or it's gonna make him make that decision himself. So here he throws another Thunder Punch. I was counting and I didn't think it was going to be a Shadow Ball, and it leaves me with a little bit of energy, and I'm able to throw a Dark Pulse at what he has in the back. So this is a very spicy pick, Alolan Raticate. I've seen a lot of chatter about this, and Alolan Raticate is definitely a very strong pick against both Hypno and Alolan Marowak, but fortunately we don't have either of those on our team. So I'm going to come in with the Lapras, throw the Surf here, and this Alolan Raticate is way bulkier than I thought. So we make a simultaneous swap here, and I'm able to catch this Icy Wind. So I know that because the Dewgong didn't farm any energy, there's really no reason for me to be scared here, and I'm going to commit to the Snarl, knowing that here it's definitely going to be a Water Pulse. So I'm going to show up here and retain all that energy, and I'm able to commit to the Snarl down. I have 100 energy, so we're going to see if a once debuffed Arcanine can take down an Alolan Raticate. So here, definitely dealing a chunk of damage here. I actually overtapped there, so I shouldn't have, but double wall charge from the Arcanine is able to take down this Alolan Raticate, and we go 2-0 to start this set. Getting into our third battle of the set, I'm going to be leading Lapras into, let's see, Lapras into Alolan Muk. So here I'm gonna stay in this matchup because I know that if Alolan Muk in the Zero Shield only throws Dark Pulses, then with Surf and the Ice Shard damage adding up, I can definitely win switch here. So opponent Dark Pulses me, and then we CMP ties. So I'm gonna be throwing the Surf here, making sure to deny the fast move, and he decides to take it. So this means that I'm in kill range. So as long as I can get to the Surf before he does, I should be fine. But my opponent's staying in. I was actually anticipating a swap here, so I'm going to retain that shield and kind of trade that for a Sludge Wave. So my opponent decides to stay in. So I'm going to farm a little bit of extra energy with my Alolan Muk, throw a Dark Pulse. This is definitely going to KO if he doesn't shield, and he decides to let it go. So this is great for me. I have a ton of energy, but he's got a Zapdos. So this is a very spicy Pokemon, and haven't seen a whole lot of people try the legendary birds in this format. So this is very interesting, and my opponent's going to get to a charge move here right before I get to the Dark Pulse. I'm actually going to let this go. I think it's a lot more reasonable for Lapras to come back in because those Ice Shards are going to be chunking away at Lapras regardless of what charge move that he has, right? So in the Thunder Shocks, yeah, they're going to hurt a little bit, but they're not going to be doing the bulk of the damage. So here I'm going to shield. Lapras is going to use Spell Peck, and then he brings in a Hypno, and I've got the goodest boy ever to come in and try to take this guy down. So the unfortunate part about this is because Crunch is a non-stat move, and so is Snarl, it's actually not going to chunk as much as I wanted to, and the confusions from the Shadow Hypno are really going to hurt. So I have to commit a shield there, even if it's Thunder Punch, and I get to the Crunch right before my opponent reaches another charge move. And I actually thought this was going to KO, so that's why I threw in the middle of the confusion animation. But here, my opponent probably could have committed to the farm down and then KO'd me, or KO'd the Lapras, but he doesn't. And since you switch locked, I get to come in, farm up some energy, and then throw the Surf at his Zapdos coming back in. So that was definitely a close one, and it kind of showcases that Arcanine's not really an Alolan Muk. It kind of acts as one, but without those stab moves, you're going to be in a very tough spot against the Hypno in the back if they have shields. Okay, here's the fourth match of the set. And I believe this is my one loss from the set of 5. So we're going to be leading Lapras into another Lapras. So this is a tricky one, but you got to stay in, of course. And usually Shadow Lapras has a lot worse IVs. So mine is actually a raid Lapras, or a research Lapras, so this allows me to win CMP to the first full bash, and my opponent is going to shield here. So I have to make a decision here, and kind of in retrospect, I probably should have saved the shield, but I get a little scared, and I showed the skull bash as well. So now my opponent switches out into an Electrode, and I'm going to throw the Surf here so I can kind of help out my Alolan Muk in terms of retaining that switch advantage, and I'm going to go straight into the Alolan Muk. Catch the discharge here. It's pretty obvious he wasn't going to throw a foul play anyways, but I have to take the damage. So I'm going to farm up a little bit and throw the foul play. Once again, throwing on the fast move to encourage the shield, and my opponent decides to let that go. So he's going to come back in, I believe, with the Lapras, and I think I'm in a pretty good spot here. We basically have like 2.5 Pokemon here with a shield, and I don't get to a Dark Pulse, so I'm actually going to let this go. And once again, my opponent has no energy, and my Lapras has the energy. So now we're in a spot where I think we can start to play the Skull Bash Mirror once again. But fortunately here, I'm a little behind in health because I ate a couple of Volt Switches from that Electrode. And this is what is going to wind up costing me here. So my opponent decides to shield the second Skull Bash again, and I'm actually going to call the bait here. Um, and it's a surf. So this worked out. I thought it worked out kind of well for me, but unfortunately, my opponent gets to a second surf before I can reach the Skull Bash. So definitely lost track of my opponent's energy right there. I actually let the surf go, and I'm able to get my own surf off. So here I think that I'm in a period, right? I have an Arcanine here, and he's got a ton of energy, and my opponent has no shields. So I'm going to shield this and kind of anticipating a swap in of some type. And I think that they pretty much handle everything except can't handle a Snorlax. So this is a huge problem, and unfortunately, I tried to go for double wall charge here. Probably should have gone for function wall charge, but either way, not a shield. And the only one condition I have is that I can try to snarl the Snorlax down to try to hit a wall charge on this Lapras, but yeah, double debuffed Arcanine, as glassy as it already is, it does not survive a body slam, and my opponent is able to lift down my Lapras. So kind of a misplay on my part. I think if I had gone maybe straight punch and then tried to farm up for a wall charge, that might have done it. But we'll have to revisit that matchup. Again, Arcanine doesn't have a lot of positive matchups, so it's mainly there as a poser once that Alolan Muk comes really. So into the last battle, it's a Shadow Victreebel, so this is one of my favorite Pokemon to play with, and unfortunately for this team, I don't really want to swap out, and the reason is that Alolan Muk is the best counter, but Arcanine in the Snarl version doesn't really hold a candle to this Shadow Victreebel. So I actually commit to staying in and getting shield advantage, and I think that's fine. And once I come in, my opponent brings in a Shadow Snorlax. So I'm going to take this Body Slam here, and I'm going to go straight for the Sludge Wave, because if I go for the Sludge Wave and I land this, I can actually commit to the farm down and snarl him all the way down. So this is my opponent's shield here. He does not, and does a huge chunk of damage to Snorlax. I know now that I can commit one shield, and I can build up a ton of energy for whatever's coming back in. Knowing that his Victreebel probably is in a Leaf Blade by now, so I have to kind of be cognizant of that. And my opponent is going to bring in his own Alolan Muk. So here, I'm gonna actually wait for him to throw a fast move here to make sure he doesn't like sacrificial swap, but I'm gonna be throwing a Sludge Wave at this Alolan Muk, and I'm gonna continue to apply pressure here. My opponent probably overfarms here a little bit. I thought that he was already at a Dark Pulse, and Dark Pulse would threaten Alolan Muk's health at that point. And he's still snarling, I'm not really sure what he's doing, but it actually gives me enough time to get to another Dark Pulse. And I'm able to take the Shadow Victreebel out. So a lot of wasted energy for my opponent there, and then he comes in to try to snarl me down to throw energy at the next one, but he doesn't make it. So a really strange gameplay right there. I really don't think that my opponent should have tried to commit to such an aggressive farm down. And I think that he actually kind of had the advantage there with that full health Muk. He really protected that, knowing what was in the bag for me. Arcanine versus Alolan Muk, spoiler alert, Alolan Muk would crush that every single time. So definitely harder hitting fast moves or harder hitting charge moves, and a little more bulkiness overall. So yeah. Anyways, let's get into let's get into the PvPoke analysis for Arcanine and the specific team. Okay, so welcome to the PvPoke analysis of this team, and as you can see here, it's going to have a little bit worse score than the previous teams that I've played, with a C in bulk, C in coverage. So this is generally how double weakness teams are going to be presented on PvPoke though. So let's take a closer look at all the matchups, and you can see here there's some pretty decent coverage overall. The main thing to note is that assuming that our strategy works out of drawing out that Alolan Muk counter, whatever wins against Alolan Muk, less of these blue circles are going to appear for Arcanine. So assuming that all these things line up, if you can get some of these difficult matchups out of the way, then Arcanine should have a much better time being able to sweep them back. So the main anchor for this team, however, is Lapras. So kind of in retrospect, looking at the match that I did lose, maybe preserving health on the Lapras was a little bit more important. As Lapras here, the only time that it's going to be able to match up well is going to be against Mini Lapras. And the big threats for this team that I've seen come up lately are these double rock, Alolan Graveler, Alolan Golem teams. I don't know if there's a real way to beat those teams unless they don't shield against Alolan Muk. because Alolan Muk is kind of your only saving grace, and even then, Alolan Muk doesn't really win that matchup outright. So this is definitely a team that that was fun to play. However, there's a ton of weaknesses in the core meta right now, and between the different elo bands and everything, I know that people are trying out different things. So yeah, this is definitely a spicy team though. If you still kind of play it with the MO for the double weakness teams, you should still have a lot of success. So yeah, definitely give this team a try, and then I hope that your Kanto Cup is going well. And if you like this content, please feel free to subscribe, comment, or like, and I'll see you in the next video.